Ladies and gentlemen, honorable educators, fellow debaters, and respectable audience, today we stand firmly against the motion that this House will require political candidates to pass a political competency test in order to run for office. We believe that this proposal is not only undemocratic and exclusionary, but also deeply impractical, especially in the context of developing countries like Indonesia right now. A nation with unequal access to education and a long-standing struggle with corruption and manipulation. I would like to rebuttal the proposition team said. They say about educated politician candidates will be able to run the governments and societies ideally. But in reality, especially in Indonesia, we often encounter people who directly focus on training their political educations to get into the government systems easily. And they will easily escape the legal penalties when they do something wrong or corrupt because they already have the political basic knowledge. People persist and try hard to get into the government because the profits are so promising that they put a lot of effort into a political competency test. They only want the benefits, and are not responsible for the duties in government. It is an inequality for people who do not have sufficient access to education in politics, either because of economic factors, popularity, or lack of education in Indonesia. Our case will be separated into two main points. For the first, this policy discriminates against underprivileged groups that favoring academic elitism over lived experiences and public accountability because not everyone is privileged to access public political theories. We will highlight unequal access to education in Indonesia in this session. And for the second, this policy creates a dangerous opportunity for corruptions, manipulations, and political gatekeeping. We will highlight the risks of corruptions and manipulations in political tests. Let's begin with the first point, educational inequality and the danger of elitism. In Indonesia, education is not equally accessible. While major cities like Jakarta, Surabaya, or Bandung may provide decent educational infrastructure, millions of Indonesians in rural or remote areas like Papua, Kalimantan, or East Nusa Tenggara do not feel the same privilege. A large portion of our population still struggles with access to quality schools, quality teachers, and political literacy. Now imagine a farmer, a community organizer, or a local activist who has dedicated their life to serving their people. These individuals may not have a formal political education, but they possess authentic leadership skills, life experience, and the trust of the people. Under this policy, they would be disqualified not because they lack capability, but because they didn't have the luxury of academic opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in Indonesia, a democratic country. What this policy does is replace democracy with technocracy, saying that the only one who academically educated can govern. This is an exclusivism for intellectual elitism, undermining the essence of democracy, which is allow people from all walks of life to represent their communities. Even worse, this policy ignores alternative forms to political competency. This is not just about memorizing theories or law. This is about empathy, negotiations, conflict resolutions, and connection with the people in our country. Now moving to the second point, the reality of corruption in systems like this, especially in Indonesia, in our country. Let's be honest, Indonesia is still struggling with deep-rooted corruption, from cheating in university entrance exams to civil service tests. We've seen time and time again how standardized tests are not immune to manipulations in this country. If this motion is being implemented, it will simply become another opportunity for the rich and powerful to rule the system, not everyone. Do you really believe a political test will be fair, natural, and incorruptible? What more makes sense in this country is that well-connected individual candidates will buy the answers, bribe the officials, or influence the test maker. Meanwhile, honest and honest candidates who rely on themselves and integrity will be kicked out out of the system, not because they are unqualified, but because they refuse to cheat. This turns the test into a gatekeeping tool, not of merit but of wealth and political influence. It will be used by those who have the power to block oppositions, limit challengers, and control who gets to run the society. Moreover, who gets to design this test? Who decide that what counts as a political competence? A ruling party could rule the test to favor their own worldview and silence the opposition voices. That's not democracy. That's an authoritarian hiding behind a test. Let us not forget, Indonesia has already a system for evaluating political competence. It's called election. If a candidate is not competent, the people will not vote for them. That's a real test, the test of public trust, not a paper-based exams. Would rural readers who speak in local dialect but not in English will pass the test? Of course not. They may say it will ensure better policy making, but education alone doesn't guarantee ethical leadership. We've seen highly educated leaders engage in corruption, inefficiency, and even worse, bad stuff that put societies at a disadvantage in this country. Political competency tests also require a large amount of money taken from the state. It involves a large amount of state finances that should have been allocated to the more urgent matters. Even the test results have not determined it entirely whether or not a person is qualified for politics. The state budget for this test is better to being used in other sectors that guarantee the welfare of people in this country. So, in conclusion, we oppose this motion because it's undemocratic, elitist, and unequal for everyone. It disqualifies good candidates that simply because they were born into privilege. It creates a test that can be corrupted, manipulated, and weaponized. The real test of political leadership should be not a written exam. It should be the will of people through open, fair, and inclusive elections. For those reasons, we urge you to propose these motions. Thank you.